Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing a Sky Striker deck profile. So I'm really excited to do some for you guys because we just got Engage back to 3, which is insane for this deck. I'm super excited to show you guys this list, so without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of our notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like in your name, description, every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month you're a patron. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Sky Striker Ace Ray. Ray is definitely a 3-up in the build, so we can go in for all of our Sky Striker Link monsters. This card is an extremely important card that you want to see as quickly as possible or search so you can start Link summoning. We then play a single copy of Rose. Rose is just an additional monster we can use in the deck to help us Link summon into our monsters, and it's a really good 1-up in the build. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom's an amazing 3-up in the deck just to stop the opponent from touching the deck. We then play 3 copies of Effect Veiler. Effect Veiler is really good as a hand trap right now just to stop your opponent's monster effects, and it's an amazing card in this build. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get in to the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with a single copy of Rhoda. Rhoda is really good in the deck because it can actually search out our Sky Striker monsters from our deck to our hand so we can start Link summoning. We then play a single copy of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is definitely a 1-up in the build just to stop the opponent from hand trapping us while we're going in for all of our plays. We then play a single copy of Harpy's Feather Duster. Feather Duster is amazing to be able to just deal with your opponent's back row. We then play 2 copies of Lightning Storm. Lightning Storm is an amazing card to put pressure on the opponent because this card has the ability to destroy all the attacks your monster your opponent controls or deal with your opponent's back row, which is just really cool about this card. The only downside is you have to control no face-up cards, which is not that big of a deal. You just make sure this is the first card you activate. We then play a single copy of Triple Tactics Talents. Tactics Talents is really good as a 1-up in the build because this card has the ability to either let you draw 2, take control of an opponent's monster, or look at your opponent's hand and choose a card from it and shuffle it back in the deck, which is just a really cool ability if your opponent does decide to activate a monster effect during our main phase. We then play 2 copies of Triple Tactics Thrust. Thrust is such a cool 2-up in the build because this card can search so many different spell cards like Feather Duster, Rhoda, and a bunch of our different Sky Striker cards, which is so cool about this card just if our opponent hand traps us. This card is so cool in the deck and just an amazing 2-up in the build. We then play a single copy of Area Zero. I feel like 1 is really all you need for Area Zero. This card has the ability that you can target one other card that you control and excavate the top 3 cards of your deck. And if you do, you can add an excavated Sky Striker card to your hand and shovel the rest back in the deck. Then, if you excavate a Sky Striker card, send the targeted card to the graveyard. And if this card in the field zone is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can actually special summon a Sky Striker Ace monster from your deck to your side of the field, which is a really cool ability just to instantly get a monster out on your side of the field. But the deck is already so consistent now that we have Engage back to 3. I feel like 1 is really all you need. We then play a single copy of Hornet Drones. Hornet Drones is an amazing 1-up of the deck that just generates us a token on our side of the field so we can start Link summoning into our monsters. This card is insane in the deck as a 1-up. It's just a really good 1-up in the deck because it's currently at 1. We then play a single copy of Shark Cannon. Shark Cannon is amazing, but you only need a single copy in the deck because we do have Engage back to 3, so we can search it. It has the ability, just like all of your other Sky Striker cards, that if you control no monsters in your main monster zone, you can activate this card, and this card lets you target 1 monster in your opponent's graveyard and banish the monster, or if you have 3 or more spells in the graveyard, you can special summon that monster to your side of the field instead, but it cannot activate its effects, or it cannot attack, excuse me, which is not that big of a deal that it can't attack. It's just really good to be able to bring back a monster so we can Link climb with that card. We then play 2 copies of Afterburners. Afterburners is amazing in the deck because this card pops cards on the field that if you control no monster in the main monster zone, you can actually target a face-up monster on the field and destroy it. Then if you have 3 or more spells in the graveyard, you can destroy a spell or trap on the field, which is a great effect just to be able to pop cards on the field. We then play 2 copies of Multi-Roll. I feel like 2 is all you need, especially especially now that we have Engage back to 3. This card has the ability that once per turn, you can target one other card you control, send it to the graveyard. Also, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to your spell's activations for the rest of the turn, even if this card leaves the field, basically turning them into Speed Spell 3, Speed Spell 4, which is insane to be able to do, to basically make it so your opponent can't respond. I love that effect about this card, and it also has the ability once per turn, during the end phase, you can actually set Sky Striker spells or spells with different names from your graveyard up to the number of Sky Striker spell cards you activated this turn while this card was faceable on the field, but banish them when they leave the field, which is a great effect to be able to recycle your spell cards, put them back on your side of the field, and be able to use them over and over again. I love this card in the deck, but I feel like 2 is all you need. We then play 3 copies of Engage. Engage is such a powerful card in the deck, and it's insane that this card is back at 3. This card is basically the Rhoda for the deck, letting you add a Sky Striker card from your deck to your hand, except another copy of this card. Then, if you have 3 or more spells in the graveyard, you also get to draw a card, being a +1, which is so cool about this card. This card is definitely a 3-of now in the deck, and it's one of the most powerful cards in the entire build because it gets to everything. We then play 3 copies of Widow Anchor. Widow Anchor is an amazing card in the build as well, because this card has the ability, if you control no monster in your main monster zone, you can target one face-up effect monster on the field, negate that face-up monster's effect until the end of the turn. Then, if you have 3 or more spells in the graveyard, you actually get to take control of that opponent's monster until the end phase, which is a really cool ability just to take control of an opponent's monster so we can link climb into other cards. We then play 3 copies of Linkage. Linkage is an amazing OTK card for the deck, and this card is so cool because if you control no monsters in your main monster zone, you cannot special summon monsters from the extract for the rest of the turn after this card resolves, except Sky Striker monsters. Also send one other card you control to the graveyard, and if you do, special summon a Sky Striker Ace monster from your extract to your extra monster zone. And if you have at least 1 light and 1 dark Sky Striker Ace monster on the field or in your graveyard, the summoned monster gains 1,000 attack points, which is a really cool effect to be able to use this card just to help you go in for game. We then also play 3 copies of Upstart Goblin, because this card is amazing in the deck because you want to get 3 spell cards in the graveyard, and this card is just basically an extra card to let you dig into the deck for consistency, because you draw a card, your opponent does gain 1,000 life points, but that's not that big of a deal because you want to get spells in the graveyard so you can get the bonus effects on your Sky Striker cards. This card is an amazing 3-of in the build. It's just a really cool card overall. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. That is a lot of spells. So for the traps, we're just going to be playing 3, and that's going to be 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Infinite Impermanence is really good as a 3-of in the build, just to stop your opponent's monster effects and also lock down entire columns of spells and traps. This card is an amazing hand trap to go along with our copy of Effect Veiler and Ash Blossom in the build, just to make sure we're going to have a hand trap for every occasion. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, guys, we're going to start off with 3 copies of Kungari. Kungari is one of the most powerful cards in the entire extra deck because this card is just a really awesome 3-of. And if this card is special summon, you can actually target a Sky Striker spell in the grave and add it back to your hand, and it gains 100 attack points for each spell in the graveyard, which is a really cool ability that this card is going to get a lot larger because we have a lot of spell cards we can activate, so this card is just going to gain 100 attack points for each spell in the grave. We then play 3 copies of Shizuku. Shizuku is really good as a 3-of in the build as well, because this card has the ability of monsters that your opponent control lose 100 attack and defense for each spell in your graveyard, and once per turn, during the end phase, if this card was special summoned this turn, you get to add a Sky Striker spell from your deck to your hand with a name different from cards in your graveyard, which is a really awesome ability to grab the exact card you need off this card's effect. We then play 2 copies of Hayate. Hayate is really good as a 2-of in the deck because this card can actually attack your opponent directly, and after damage calculation, if this card battle, you get to send a Sky Striker card from your deck to the grave, which is a great ability to get the exact card you need in the grave. We then play a single copy of Kaina. Kaina is just a good 1-of in the deck as an option, plus this card is an Earth monster, which gives us more cards in the graveyard to be able to use with access code. We then play a single copy of Zeke. Zeke is amazing as a boss monster in the deck, and this card is just a really cool card overall because it must be Link Summon, and you can only special summon this card once per turn. And if this card is Link Summoned, you actually get to target a face-up monster on the field and banish it into the opponent's next end phase. And once per turn, you can target one other card that you control, and this card gains 1,000 attack, then send the target to the graveyard, which is an amazing effect. We then play a single copy of Azalea. I really like Azalea as a 1-of in the build, because this card has the ability that it does take 2 light and or dark monsters to make this card, but it must be Link Summon, and you can only special summon this card once per turn. And if this card is special summon, you actually get to target one card on the field and destroy it. Then if you have 3 or less spell cards in the graveyard, send this card to the graveyard. So you're only going to summon this card when you have 3 or more spell cards in the graveyard. And once per turn, at the start of the damage step, if this card battles an opponent's monster, you can actually banish a spell from the graveyard to destroy that opponent's monster, which is a great effect to be able to use. We then play a single copy of Access Code to be able to pop multiple monsters on the field, or pop multiple cards on the field, and it comes out absolutely massive. We then play a single copy of Selene. Selene is really easy to summon in the deck to be able to climb into your copy of Access Code in this build. It's just a really good 1-of overall. We then play a single copy of the Fire Charmer. Fire Charmer is really good because there's so many fire decks running around right now. Plus, it's a really good card to be able to bring back Ash Blossom from the graveyard and then climb into a copy of Selene so that you can go in for a copy of Access Code. This card is great in the deck overall, especially with the amount of fire decks running around. We then finally play a single copy of SP Little Knight. SP Little Knight is really good in the deck as a 1-of. You can play the Dark Charmer instead if you don't have an SP Little Knight. And this card is really good because it's a double interruption. I absolutely love this card, but again, you can change it out for a Dark Charmer if you want to. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed. This deck is absolutely crazy now that we have Engage back to 3. If you guys have never played a Sky Striker deck before, you should definitely give this deck a try because of how insane this deck is now. It's a really fun deck to be able to play, and it's just going to keep getting more and more support, which is really, really cool. So that's going to do for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Definitely hit the bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.